Hello everyone. In today's video, we're going to be exploring missile kinematics just a little more. This is a thing that I often follow over on Discord, I follow on the forums, and it seems to be still challenging for some folks. So I just want to take a little bit of time to kind of explain what's going on and why that's going to matter tactically. So what I have here is I have a couple bogeys way off here in the distance, and of course we don't have the TIPS 43. We have a TIPS 75 today. I just needed something that had slightly better resolution for my purposes here. And of course, we have a pair of F-16s. We have one chilling at 45,000 feet. We have another one chilling at 5,000 feet. Now, one of the things that came out a little while in command was the fact that missiles now act like missiles that you see in the real world. When we watch movies in Hollywood, the missile leaves the rail and it has this big white smoke trail and it travels for some reason really slowly and dramatically to the target. The big tons of white smoke popping out of the back the entire time. So people have time to dodge it just in case, kind of a thing. Now, missiles don't work that way. Realistically, whenever you're dealing with any sort of, especially a missile designed to attack other aircraft, you're either going to have a boost missile where you're basically going to fire a ton of thrust, get the thing going up really fast, and then coast to the target, or you're going to have a boost coast missile where basically it's going to do a lot of bursts to get it up past the transonic high drag region of traveling past the speed of sound, and then it will sustain itself trying to get to the target. So depending what model you have, it's going to have a different impact on the performance of the actual weapon. So today we're going to be looking at the AMRAAM. And one of the things you're going to notice here is if I actually click on the AMRAAM, let me grab the sucker real quick, is you'll notice at the bottom is it has different speeds capable at different altitude bands. Now, why does this matter? This matters tremendously to us because it means if we try to fire one of these things at an altitude of less than 12,000 feet, our top speed of our missile is going to be limited to 1,620 knots. Now, I don't know about you, but that's kind of slow. The other thing we can think about too is if we're up at the higher band here, this would be 36,000 feet and up, you'll notice our top speed is not quite double, but it's pretty darn jolly close to that particular speed. Now that's going to have a really big impact in our overall range. Now remember, this weapon will fire, burn for a little bit, and then coast to its target. It's actually a lofting missile too. What that means is when it fires, it'll actually burn all of its motor, get a bunch of altitude, and then come riding back down to Earth. But if we're firing it from a low altitude at a target, we're never going to get to the top speed, which is going to impact our maximum range of our weapon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and flip on my radars here because, why not? Not that I'd ever get the F-16 radar to actually detect anything worth engaging there, unless it's like a wall or something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and check my WRA real fast. Go over here, and you can see right now we're at automatic firing range. Of course, we could set this to no escape range, but for today, I don't know. I want to play with that. One of the fun things, by the way, and this will probably be a different video, is we can actually set the range between these two numbers, and that's almost optimum. And I'll explain why, but that's, like I said, that's for another day. DCS fans know why. So what we're going to do is we're going to pursue our targets here. Again, we're getting pretty close to range. If you're wondering why they drop out every once in a while, it's because when they put their nose on, they have the minimum of basically a radar signature here. It'll actually drop out even though they're literally in visual range of these targets. So I'm going to go ahead and order this guy to come a little bit more to the right here. I'm going to go ahead and press Shift F1, and we're going to go ahead and order up an attack here. So I'm going to use a single AMRAAM. That's going to be plenty. We're going to grab this one right here. We're going to swing this one around as well. And it looks pretty good to me. Shift 1. Whoop, helps if you actually push the button. We're going to go now click on this guy. It looks pretty good to me. Now, the maximum firing range of the weapon is dictated by this little red band that you see right here. But remember, that's best case scenario. That's engaging a target that is not only far away, but it's also at an altitude where the missile can spend most of its time where the air is nice and thin. So we're already moving into range here. Keep in mind our F-16s are going to have to lock onto these targets before they're actually going to be able to fire. We have no cooperative engagement capability here. If we were using like F-35s or something, we could probably pull that trick. And what you're actually going to find extremely fascinating here, let me go ahead and pause. If I were to order up a manual attack now, you'll notice I'm outside of DLZ range. And you're sitting there going, wait, what? I thought you didn't have no escape zone launch on. I don't, but keep in mind, I still have to be able to actually hit the target with the weapon that I'm firing. So as weird as that sounds, it creates a kind of a fun problem. Now notice, we're about half range, and we still have not engaged our targets yet. If I were to go back over to the one on the left, especially, who's got 45,000 feet, you'll notice I'm still in a problem where I can't actually lock onto the target. So that's okay. That's okay. This, for the purpose of my demonstration, that's actually going to work really, really, really well for us. So we're continuing to get closer and closer here. All you can see our total range right now is 25 nautical miles. That should be close enough to be able to get a missile off here. So our AMRAAM is ready. It's sitting on the rail. Up there it is. Off it goes. Go ahead and pause for a second. An important demonstration here. Let's go ahead and open up that three-dimensional view. And that looks lovely to me. Zoom in a bit, and let's look right at that AMRAAM there, and unpause. So you'll notice this thing casually pops up to about 2,500 knots. It's burning, 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 burning. That motor is running at full capacity right now, and it's starting to put itself up in, whoa, a little bit of a funky arc. And then you can see it bent itself over, and now it's actually starting its terminal approach into the target itself. So you can see it had that nice little arc that it just traveled in. We also noticed that the motor has burnt out at this particular point, and we're just using gravity to help us out. But remember, we're still in the nice thick part of the atmosphere, which makes it a little bit easier. Simultaneously, if you come down here, you'll notice the other one, well, actually not simultaneously, this is a few moments later. Our other AMRAAM got launched, and you're going to notice that its performance is a little bit less. It's actually pushing itself through the thickest part of the atmosphere very, very aggressively, attempting to climb here as it makes its way up towards the target. Now remember, this missile was fired at less than half of its maximum indicated range. So it's going up, pulling through that atmosphere. Up there it goes. It's going to go ahead and lock on terminally. And it is bleeding energy because now the missile has to A, go uphill, and B, it has lost all of its energy on the way up on account of the fact that it has had to travel through that thick part of the atmosphere. Now, right now, this missile is just coasting. It's just kind of doing its thing. It's cruising along. Keep in mind, this is a non-maneuvering target. And yes, that other one just got a hose there, so I'm not worried about this. And you can see this missile is it's just chugging. If anybody was, if I was shooting at a MiG-21, for example, or I'm firing at a MiG-29 or something like that, he would have just turned around and gone away, and then my missile wouldn't have achieved anything. So remember, that motor is not running. This is not Hollywood kind of a thing. And it wasted all of that time trying to get itself through this thick part of the atmosphere, so it has no energy. Oh, there it goes. So as you can see here, if I actually were to measure this, that was 13 miles away. That was not much in terms of range there. And you can see just what a difference that actual made. Now, the fun thing here is if I press Shift F1, click on him, like, this is easy, but notice it's out of the DLZ range of the weapon, even though he's right there. So, of course, if I rotate him a little bit here and I kind of do my little locky piece here, I should be able to get that shot off once again a little bit closer. And again, he's pulling away from me. So, unfortunately, even though I'm in the range, I can't actually succeed in getting a missile shot off here because he basically can outrun the missile. Now, notice as he turned into us, I can go ahead and pop that other missile into him, and that should probably eliminate my drone here. Literally delightful. So as you can see, the important things you have to think about is the angles at which you're working at. And keep in mind that air density really does play a role in the maximum performance of a weapon. Now, some of you are probably saying, what if you were to recreate this scenario and you actually did everything so the drones were at a low altitude? Well, that makes things interesting. And then we run into an interesting situation. We have a situation where we have a missile that is very, 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 very capable in thin atmospheres, and we're going to try to engage a target that is going to have to basically not only be below us substantially, but we're also going to have to punch through the thick part of the atmosphere to actually engage it. Same thing as we had before. The only big change here is if I actually click on my little rock here, I'll notice that its altitude is 7,200 feet. Yes, I did consult a chart for that one to make sure it was not going to hit a mountain. But now we're going to go ahead and do the same engagement that we've just done. But this time, our missiles are going to have a slightly different problem. Our missile on the right not only has to travel through the thick part of the atmosphere, it has to travel through the thick part of the atmosphere for its entire journey to the target. The one on the left side gets the benefit of getting all its speed initially in the thin part of the atmosphere, but then is going to have to drop down through the thick part of the atmosphere to actually engage the actual target. So we'll go ahead and line everybody up here. I actually want to take the one on the left and move him just slightly, reduce the angles a little bit here, and we'll go ahead and speed up time here. So one of the challenges we're going to have now is our little F-16 on the left might not be able to actually lock onto the target on the ground because the angles are so steep here. Remember, there's a mechanical limit to those particular radars. The guy on the right, though, he should be successful. Again, keep in mind there's some targets in the way and stuff like that. All right, we're getting very, very, very terminally close here. I'm going to bring him around a little bit here. He's actually in a really good spot. Let's go ahead and double check the altitude here. We're probably going to have to bring him up a tiny bit. Yeah, 5,000 is actually too low for him. We're going to have to bring him up to at least an altitude where he can even see the other target that he's supposed to be engaging here. So let's go ahead and grab him. Again, this is one downside of doing this not over the ocean, but terrain makes things interesting. So our buddy on the left there, you probably notice he's struggling a little bit to get the shot off. The reason why we're still out of the DLZ here. And one of the interesting things is we can actually order an attack that ignores the DLZ. It's just kind of an interesting little thing, but we're not going to worry about that today. All right, so we're cruising. We're getting pretty darn close here. This is a range of, this is about 25 nautical miles here. So we are very, very close. This one again, more than close enough, and we're in range. We can go ahead and fire. We already have one allocated, and there goes. Delightful. Let's go ahead and unpause. Let's watch what happens. So this weapon now is not going to get the benefit of a loft. Keep in mind we fired at a distance of, oh geez, it's like 12 nautical miles. That's nothing. We'll go ahead and grab onto that one. And now notice it's got all the speed in the world as it drops through the atmosphere. But notice as it starts to descend here, again, this is thousands of feet, it starts to slow down very, very, very rapidly because now it's hitting the thicker part of the atmosphere. And remember, there's no motor burning anymore. This is just the momentum basically that it's got. And obviously, remember, gravity's helping us out. But you can see that I burnt my energy all the way down to Mach 1.5 here. Well, we're not out of energy, but we're critically low. This weapon might actually stall before it gets to a target that was only 12 nautical miles away. So I'll speed up time a little bit here for dramatic effect. And you will see our missile has completely stalled. So what we want to see here is because of the dynamics of these weapons, because of the fact they're aerodynamic beings going through a nice, thick, realistic atmosphere, they actually run into some really, really interesting little mechanical problems because of that, which limits your ability to successfully engage. Now, I know you're sitting there going, wait, that's a really good piece of information to know. If I know this now, I know that if I want to try to knock a hit with a missile that's been lofted at long range, the safest thing to do is to go low. You're only half right there because remember, some of the bigger, heavier missiles that come off of SAMs don't care. Now, we'll take this missile now. Now, this one is going to do a partial loft for the purposes of improving its range a little bit. Let me go ahead and grab that missile. So if you actually look here, it actually went up, and now it's actually diving back down. So our motor is run out of energy here, but keep in mind, look at the distance that we're firing this thing. This is like nothing. What do we got here? This is 12 nautical miles away. That is squat from airplane ranges here. So we're coming back into the atmosphere again. Now we burnt our motor. We're in the much, much thicker part of the atmosphere. And you can see because of that, our missile is just running out of energy as it's cruising along. Remember, this thing isn't very heavy. I mean, well, relatively speaking, I certainly wouldn't want to carry it around. But it's not, an SM-2 or something like that as far as weight goes. And you can see that we've got ourselves a nice little, we've got the angles. If I look like this target shouldn't move across the screen. And let's see what happens here. Oh, that was close. No joy. The missile stalled. So now we're going to fire another shot. And this particular one was from a range of, that's 7 nautical miles here. Weapon's going to come shooting in. Keep in mind, it's got plenty of energy left. And we're either, did you see that left turn there? That was awesome. So we got a 1.9. I'm pretty confident we're going to catch up. Remember, this is a non-maneuvering target we're taking shots at here. This is just kind of chilling on its own. And it ran out of energy. Oh boy, you ever get the feeling? So what I always like to do is just hit F1 and go ahead and click on the target and say, go figure this out. So of course our F-16 buddy is going to step up. I'll go ahead and not limit it by any way because I do want it to go ahead and pick up a little bit of energy here. Let's see here. Off. Do anything you need to do to engage that target. Kind of was hoping he'd fire an AIM-9 at him because at this distance an AIM-9 is a better missile. There we go. So this was the world's most expensive engagement on a couple of cheap target drones here. But I did want to show you that you could see how the performance of the missile and how the atmosphere affects everything really makes a massive difference from an engagement perspective. And unless you keep those things in mind, when you're trying to do air-to-air work, you have to remember that you're not going to hit the target just because you appear to be in range of it, especially if it's maneuvering. Enjoy.